Autohaus 2021. Happy New Year's, everyone. 2020 forced us to rapidly make change. Plans that were to be slowly implemented a year or more ahead had to be executed now. With that being said, 2020 broke me down and forced me to really reflect on myself on every level. Is what I'm doing right now the correct path to get me to where I want to be? Is what I feel right now and what I want to say right now genuine? Am I surrounding myself with the right people? Do we have the right team? Am I enough? Am I right to trust in myself anymore? I've decided I want to move the shop upmarket, and my Te72 Wagon was not going to get me there. So I sold all my stuff, all my leftover TE parts, including a brand new set of OER side draft carbs and the manifold to match. But fortunately, my wagon will live the rest of its days with a happy new buyer in Hawaii. I bought a Skyline. Nissan Skyline R33 GTS 25T sedan. Wow, what a mouthful. The writing is on the wall. New cars aren't getting any better, and hand in hand, enthusiasts don't want new cars. The Bay Area is booming with imported golden era vehicles. Case in point, I see a JDM vehicle at least 3 times a week and multiple times per day. Keep in mind, I rarely leave the shop, and California is also the hardest place in the country to own an imported vehicle. I've also slowly observed that at our first Friday Corolla meets, it was far more likely to see at least 5 big name imported vehicles at the same meet than it was to see a single USDM Halo car, i.e. Mark IV Supra or FD RX-7, just as some examples. I am exhausted. No joke. The hot question right now in the Bay Area is, what shop do you recommend? And I swear every single food delivery guy that comes to the shop asks if I can work on their car, because they don't know where to go. With that being said, I am both blessed and anxiety ridden with a wait list for customer work that seemingly gets bigger by the day. By the time this podcast is released, I will have done a 13-hour, 6-day work week for at least the past 2 months. Oh goody. I had the owner of a company I do contract work for tell me recently, "Man, I've got to find a way to pay you more so you don't have to work on so many cars. You're working yourself too hard." Upmarket is the way to go. My bet is that moving upmarket will allow me to do what I intended to in the first place. A lower volume of vehicles for repair, but a high dollar amount per repair order. In this case, I need to be making it much higher, but alas, my conscience always seems to get in the way. Media work literally is not paying off. At the inception of the Autohaus, my aim was to take in a low volume of unique vehicles and push media work so that the supplemental income from the media work would make the business sustainable. That hasn't been the case for 2020. For some reason, my inner voice convinced myself that the media work would literally pay off. And while I sincerely appreciate everyone's support and am extremely indebted to those who support me on Patreon, the income from the media work has not been making a real impact. I keep getting asked about new merch. I know, and I'm sorry. I guilt myself that I'm just being lazy, but I don't really have the bandwidth to manage making new merch for the Autohaus in addition to everything else that I'm doing. I'm really sorry. I know you guys want shirts and more stickers, but realistically, my inner voice tells me, how many shirts and stickers can I really sell? The Autohaus shop space will more than double next month, and so will my rent. So once again, I am taking another big bet for 2021. This also means that the media work will have to adjust. I'm changing the podcast to have a bigger scope beyond Corollas. Undoubtedly, my favorite chassis and my favorite group of people, but remembering what Mr. JSP John said about getting the media work into the hands of as many people as possible, the current scope of the podcast alienates most people. So here it is, the new tagline for 2021. JDM, quirky, and unobtainium. The Autohaus podcast brings you personal stories from eclectic car owners, industry insiders, pro drivers, and much more. Real stories, real people, no fluff. Another reoccurring issue that I've had with the podcast, I absolutely appreciate all the recommendations for guest speakers, but straight up, I either need a warm introduction from you guys or to actively nag these people to come speak on the podcast. Imagine getting a random DM or email from someone you've never heard of, asking for an hour of your time to speak on some obscure podcast you've never heard of. On the other side of that, now imagine getting 100 DMs all asking you to speak on that same podcast. I'm open to having most anyone guest speak, but most don't respond back, and it's that simple. I can name countless guests I've tried to contact for months, do like a complete 180 and immediately reach out after someone has done a warm introduction. Warm introductions or multiple requests to the potential guest are the keys if you guys want to hear someone speak on the podcast. And I'm sorry, but I don't have the time to be Indiana Jones and search for Uncle Billy Bob III, although he may be the first guy in the US to do a 20-valve swap and is also a pioneer in the scene, but unfortunately also is devoid of social media and impossible to find. I feel like that was a really negative monologue, but I wanted you guys to honestly know what I've been going through and give you guys a heads up for what's to come for 2021. So with that being said, let's all have a happy 2021, and like Tupac said, you've got to keep your head up. That's it for this week's episode. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, as reviews really help support us. You can do it straight from your desktop. Don't even need an Apple device. This is Autohaus Z. Thanks for all the support, you guys.